Okay, so a bit of an update for the pack, right? Basically, the gist of the situation in terms of what I'm doing working-wise and release-wise is everything that came before what I'm doing now is like little bits of pieces that I'm putting and porting and adjusting slightly, but altogether am rebuilding the pack from the ground up to actually make it flow a lot smoother rather than just being this random assortment of ideas. Now, one of the biggest ideas that I always wanted to do for the pack was a stat progression system. Now, obviously, a lot of different data packs have handled this in one way, which is through scoreboard systems and, simulating these points equal this and this has this effect. But luckily, Mojang has been kind enough to just completely open up the attribute system. So using the attribute system, we can actually make a very, very nice stat system, right, for the pack. So that's what we're going to go over today. Basically, you can see right there on the scoreboard, we have a stat gain. And again, I like tying luck into it because I think luck is just a nice, impactful stat that should have broader uses. So basically that stat gain right now is we gain one stat whenever we would gain a stat. But if I were to give myself luck, which actually I have the potion, not actually works because there's only 1 point of luck. But if I were to give myself actual amountable luck, right? So give us, we'll just go with 99, which is the cap for the pack purposes, right? So if we give ourselves 99 luck, stat gain goes up to 10. But what does this actually influence? Well, if we go ahead and clear the effects, we can then go over and look at some different scoreboards. So effects, clear, okay. So scoreboard, objectives, set display, sidebar. We will tackle agility first. That should be the easiest, right? So agility is now a stat. And you can see I have agility and agility check. And we'll go over why I have two scoreboards to do basically the same thing, right? If we do agility, it's at 0. If we do agility check, it will be also at 0. But the way it works is as agility goes up, as we increase agility through different means, we will improve our character and gain access to the attribute system that, again, Mojang has opened up. So, for instance, if we were to just manually scoreboard players, we'll go with add, make it easier, add us agility and give us 50 points at a time, right? So through 50 points, slight increase, more increase. Can you sort of see the FOV increase, right? So every time our stat increases, we are getting faster and faster all the way up to a cap that I have set, right? But it's not just movement speed. No, it is movement efficiency, which is now to do with cobwebs and water, right? So your ability to walk through cobwebs and water should be quicker. If we do that, and then for instance, remove the points, right? So we do reset agility, reset us agility, right? We should now move through the cobweb a little bit slower. So again, as we progress the stats, they're going to influence different attributes. For instance, agility, what we are on right now, influences attack speed, movement efficiency, movement speed, step height, and water movement efficiency, right? So again, I never thought to actually do this because there was just so few attributes to actually affect. But now for each stat, I can almost target, anywhere between 2 to 5 actual attributes that actually make them feel properly impactful. Now, in terms of the check mechanic, right? So if we go to the objective, we have check. They both update similar, right? But one after the other. So what this allows me to do is basically compare whether or not agility check is equal to agility, meaning that at the current time or the current tick, we have a constant level. And when one increases while the other doesn't, that's when it will reapply the attributes, meaning that I'm not constantly running a check I'm constantly running a check, but I'm not constantly running a function to apply attributes. Now, one way I was tempted to do this was through the new enchantment system, because it is significantly better, in my opinion, for attributes, because the game automatically applies and removes them rather than you having to have a giant array to check the value, remove the value, target this UUID, target this, target that, right? So enchants are definitely a fantastic way to do it, and we do have some enchants, right? So if we go enchants, I should have access to the other ones I've started writing, right? If we do Runechant, right, we have favored, we have oddity, scour, seeker, nourishing, then we have these stat gaining enchants, and we have these 2 curses. Now, there are a bit of difficulties. For instance, anything you do with attributes, it still has the normal requirement of requiring a UUID, meaning that you can't have the same enchantment target multiple equipment slots. So for instance, if I wanted to have luck, which is what favored is, I need a separate one because I need a separate UUID for each piece I'm going to allow to increase it. So for instance, we have to do favored chest on the chess piece. Now, they'll all say the same thing, right? I haven't reworded the language, but enchantment Minecraft.favored. And you actually see down there, it says, when worn, +1 luck. Now, if we go all the way up to level 5, well, apparently level 4, because I forgot 0 is a thing. I'm confused. Okay. 5 is higher than the max level 4, yeah. Do you have to start from a newly enchanted thing every time? That's kind of interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's weird. You can't override them. Curious. But yeah, so now we have luck +4. That's wrong too. I'm sorry, but 5 is the cap, and 5 should have worked. Is 5 not the cap? 5 is not the cap. Why is 5 not the cap? Anyway, the point is, right, so each of these needs a separate attribute and therefore a separate enchantment file to actually work effectively. But again, through this means, we now have access to luck, which again, luck will affect the different stat gaining systems. And the current method that I'm thinking of using is a mixture of in-game interactions, right? So, you know, daily events, you might wake up one morning and you gain a bonus to these stats. You might wake up and gain a negative. And overall, I do want it to fluctuate, right? So if you continue working on it, it'll continue to progress and be a wonderful additive. But there are a ton of different ways in the pack that we've seen previously to affect stats, right? We have the 2 satchels that allow you to store the different clusters to gain bonuses. And altogether, I just want them to synergize well enough with one another, right? Because a lot of attributes actually need a base amount. They don't have a base amount on the player, right? But they could. And then if they do, I can use the clusters to give a percentage value. So for instance, with the stat gaining enchantments here, for instance, Dexterous would work on the leg slot, right? And whenever the player moves or maybe sprints or swims, right, it's going to increase the player's agility. And as that agility increases, again, they're going to move and swim and do all that a lot better, and so forth and so on. So Inquisitive would tackle intellect and would be more tied towards the spellcasting system of the pack rather than, well, max absorption is the only attribute that I could think to add to it, right? But again, this goes back to the whole thing that I was talking about where there just wasn't enough attributes to have a really fleshed out stat system. Life Drinker will affect health and oxygen, right, for swimming. Looming will affect sneaking speed and entity interaction range. Resilience is armor toughness, explosion knockback resistance, and safe full distance. Strength, you could probably guess, is attack damage as well as sweeping damage, and some stuff that I can't see. I think it was attack speed. No, attack speed's under agility. And toil will be everything to do with mining, right? So block break speed, block interaction range, and mining efficiency, right? So there's just a multitude of stats that Mojang has given us access to, again, create these really fun systems. So what I'm trying to accomplish in reworking and rebuilding the pack from, well, not scratch, again, per se, right? Everything is still fleshed. Everything we've made previously is still there. I'm not throwing it all out. I'm just bringing it over slowly so I can connect them a lot better, is to, again, have a proper game plan route, right? Because that wasn't really a thing. It was just, here's the idea, implement the idea. Right? And that was that. But again, we want a system where the player starts out, weak, progresses, gets stronger, and encounters stronger enemies. So even with this system of stats, I have another scoreboard that will maintain the total of all the stats, right? So if we go to power, so power is currently 150. So that's from our luck and luck only. But if I were to now increase agility again, right? So if we bump it by 50, power is going up, right? So we're getting faster. You can see the FOV increase. And our power is going up. And then I can use that power to check whether or not, I want to enhance mobs near the player. I want to summon more mobs near the player. I want to give the mobs abilities, right? So again, we had that whole ability system where hostile mobs have access to 4 abilities, neutral 3 and passive 2. I can gate that, right? So maybe once you reach a certain power threshold, then they start having abilities. And then when you go to a higher power threshold, they start having access to more abilities, or they start using the abilities in quicker. And there's just a lot of things that I want to implement to, again, tie the systems together to make it feel more like a complete experience rather than just a collection of really fun ideas. Because that is something that is quite apparent, and I can see it brought up, right? Where the pack did seem very modular, right? Because I have built everything from scratch, little by little. So my hope by, again, not starting from scratch, but starting from scratch-ish, is to rebuild the pack, and make it all functional and flow a lot better. And then also, of course, utilize all the fun and flavorful additions that Mojang have added, right? The enchantment system in itself is going to be fantastic. There's tons to do. I've seen that generators are finally online, so that will speed up that system a lot quicker too. It's just the desire to, what do I want to implement, right? Do I just want base stats? Because when you have a system like the enchantments that Mojang has opened up, it is really endless, right? You could have a separate enchant for every single attribute in the game. You could have enchants to do certain things, and right, do you add them all in? Do you handle them through different systems? It's a lot to think about and consider in terms of gameplay, right? And how the pack wants to feel overall. Because again, I don't want you to feel overpowered. I don't want you to feel underpowered. I want you to have a fun time in this unique experience that we're creating overall. But yeah, I think we'll leave it there, right? So that's what I'm currently working on, stats and enchantments, and then again, slowly rebuilding the pack from scratch, and I hope to have a release out somewhat shortly. Again, if you want to play with all the features we did make, which is immensely more than what will be released with this current iteration, it is available for 1.20.4, so pre the components, but going forward, I will be using the snapshots, so aiming for 1.21, and releasing in stages. And that way, again, you can have a proper feel. I can have the player actually progress through the data pack, get to a certain point, but still be able to, collect items and all this and everything they need for future updates, right? Rather than being all over the place. So hopefully I can craft a much better, well-rounded experience for the data pack. But yeah, I just wanted to get something out, right, as a little update. But I am working diligently. There's just a lot to think about, consider, and of course, write out. So nonetheless, hope you enjoyed. See ya.